This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
What an epic way to start our Sunday. We have got the little Chief Hyena, who has returned back to Djuma after a few days' absence, and, well, he's on the hunt. This is Safari Live.
This is so exciting. We've managed to find the sausage tree pride.
Look at this last dash.
This is amazing.
Look at that incredible strength.
20 seconds.
Here come the cheetah. Unbelievable stuff. I'm just keeping my head on a swivel. You never know what's going to happen next in these situations.
Standing by.
Can you believe this?
Three, two, one. Live.
Good evening, South Africa. It is an absolute pleasure to have you on board our vehicle this evening. We are currently sitting with the Djuma clan of hyenas. Lots of things going on, lots of noises under the full moon. It is a perfect evening for everybody here. I'm not sure what they're up to, but they're up to something. My name is Lauren, and on camera this evening I have Senzo. Know what's going on, but we have a mother and cubs right next to us, and it's not just South Africa that we're coming to you from tonight. We will also be coming to you from the Masai Mara up in Kenya. 2 locations. Now, of course, we are live and interactive. This is happening right here, right now. So please do talk to us. Use the hashtag safariLIVE, and you are welcome to ask us any questions that you wish. Now, we are at the den site, trying to listen to what is going on around us as it is dark. Of course, we've just got the ambient light from the full moon, but if this mother leaves, the mother is June, we may have to leave the den site, so we're hoping that she does stay by. So while all this is happening, it has been an incredibly busy week here in Djuma this past week since you last saw us, so let's take a look at exactly what happened.
Last week on Safari Live, Tristan had a fleeting glimpse of dashing Hokomuri. Tingana cut the night with his territorial saws, perhaps reminding the prodigal Prince Hosana that Dad is still in charge. Jamie enjoyed the hilarity of the late rutting carnival madness. Up in the vastness of the Masai Mara, Pat held his breath as the shepherd's tree male almost caught some fighting topi. While David watched beautiful Kekenya easily snaffle a poor gazelle lamb for breakfast. This is Safari Live.
What a busy week it was indeed, although for the hyenas, actually, the Djuma clan here, we've got another adult that's appeared. Not entirely sure who it is because they've just appeared. It's actually been quiet on the hyena front because we have been struggling to locate them. So hyenas have den sites. This is a communal den that you're looking at right now, an old termite mound with a burrow, but they do move dens for many different reasons. Can be parasite load, smells, a predator threat. So we've been struggling to find them, but we're with them right now. Now Lisa is asking, are hyenas the only mammals, I'm guessing, born with teeth? And yes, they are. They are born with a full set of teeth as soon as they come out of the mother's womb. And of course, they do lose these and they're replaced by adult teeth, but they are born with a full set of teeth, which is absolutely incredible considering the fact that they are born slightly altricial, which just means helpless, and they do need to stay safe in a natal den for about 4 weeks before the mother will actually bring them out to the communal den. So I'm going to try and figure out who is who and what is going on here, and while we do that, we're going to send you across to Steve.
Good evening, South Africa, and welcome to my vehicle, where we are sitting here with a small herd of impala. My name is Steve Falconbridge, joined by David Eastor on camera, and a very warm welcome to all of you, especially to all the fathers out there, young and old. It's a very special day for you. I hope you've been thoroughly spoiled. So we are here with this small herd of impala here in the open clearing, and when we arrived, they were all sitting down, ruminating, chewing the cud. And for the most part, most of these females would be impregnated now from the rut that we have just sort of left. There's no males nearby, but there are definitely some little babies brewing inside some of these mamas that will be sort of dropped in about November time. And looking at how warm they are on our very special thermal camera there, the herd sticking together, feeding quite quickly out in the open, and you can see the two on the left standing up, chewing to sort of maximize the amount that they can break down their food, and the rumination process facilitates and allows these animals to get maximum out of the vegetation. So impala do form a very important food source for many, many predators, and Pat was very lucky to catch up with two of our favorite cheetahs up in the Mara called the Lamai boys.
We are here with the Border Brothers, which are two male cheetahs, a coalition of cheetah that we have up here in the Masai Mara Game Reserve of Kenya. Now, they're called the Border Brothers because they're on the Kenya-Tanzanian border. My name is Patrick. Joining me behind the lens is Bongay. And, well, we are hoping that we can get a hunt. I've heard this morning that they have been out on the prowl a bit, but nothing successful yet. There is a lot of prey in this area, and, well, their favourite prey is the Thompson's gazelle. So Thompson's gazelle are the closest. We can see them in the foreground there. So these brothers will hunt as a pair quite often as well. So they are a coalition of cheetah. And what a coalition is just like with lions. When males do go out on their own, well, they will form a bond with others to maximise their success in hunting and finding females and being able to survive out here. Most of the time we will see cheetah in a relatively short grass. They rely more on their speed than their cunning to get their prey, although they still do use a little bit of an intelligence and do try and get as close as possible. Obviously that is a massive advantage. But then after that, it all comes down to their speed and their balance. And so we will sit with these two brothers and see if they do decide to head out on a hunt and get one of these Thompson's gazelle.
Very, very, very exciting to be able to see cheetah on the hunt. It is a special thing to be able to follow them around and watch them as they go through the vast plains of East Africa. Now, our spotted cat, which is a little bit different than those cheetah, employs a very, very different technique when it comes to hunting. He is going to try and use camouflage and the cover of darkness in order to hunt, and he's got himself into a really interesting position. He basically came out onto the road, and then he did what was known as a leopard crawl. Now, a lot of you might know what that is, but he tucked his belly right down onto the bottom of the ground and slowly crawled his way along the road until he got himself in amongst a herd of impalas. My name is Tristan. On camera I've got Craig this evening, and like I say, our leopard has gotten to the point where there is impalas on the right side of him and impalas on the left side. Now, what that means is that one of these sets is going to come across the road at some point. And so what he's doing now is he's just sitting very, very patiently. It almost looks like he's falling asleep a little bit, but we can hear faintly around us the rustling of leaves and grass as these impalas are moving. And I think what he's hoping for is as they come across the road, given the length of the grass on the edge, he can then explode out and manage to grab one of these impalas. So it's a really good position that he's gotten himself into, and like I say, because it's dark, it's hopefully going to work in his favor and he's going to be able to get himself a meal. We're going to sit patiently with him in the hope that these impalas come closer. You're going to go for a short break, but hopefully we'll see you soon with some action shortly. Right, as you can see, Hyena is sitting on the road. How we found him again is just absolutely movies. We lost him very quickly after the show finished, and then we kind of came around on the road and luckily found him here. But it's amazing, we can hear these impalas on either side. I can't see them, and every now and then with the light, if I shine onto the side, I can just pick up an eye glint, but they're probably about 20 meters off the road on either side. And so if the impalas move either way, he's going to get very lucky here, and maybe he's going to get himself a meal. So he's positioned himself perfectly. But his leopard crawl along the road was one of my favorite things I've seen this year. He had his tummy only inches off the ground. In fact, not even. I think if you came here and looked at the tracks in the morning, his tummy fur probably would have scraped along the road with his little feet in front of it. And he was trying his very best to stalk along and get close. It was amazing to watch. And I think we're going to see him kind of carrying on as the herd moves around. So he might carry on kind of doing the same crawl. I'm very tempted to try not to drive on the tracks if he does move later, because I want to come here in the morning and we can kind of show all of you just how cool those tracks look. It must be very, very cool to see them. But it was amazing to watch. The only problem that he's got, which we'll talk about just now, is the fact that there's a full moon out, which is not great for hunting. You often find the cats get a little bit thinner around this period because of how bright it is out here. I mean, I can see him with the naked eye, and without any lights or anything like that. It's just that bright that it's easy kind of to see him. Right, we're going to go into a ad break, or coming out of our ad break shortly, so I'm going to keep quiet for a little bit and you can enjoy the ambience of full moon and a leopard in the night of the Sabi Sands. As you can see, we are still following our male leopard as he hunts these impalas under the cover of darkness, live from South Africa. It is a very special thing to be sitting in the wilderness, listening to the sounds of impalas all around you, and a leopard in the road. Now, the problem for this leopard at the moment is that unfortunately it's full moon tonight, and that means it's very, very bright. So even though it's incredibly dark and we've got our IR, I can actually make out his shape on the road because of the ambient light of that full moon. And as the full moon rises and gets higher in the sky, so it's going to be harder and harder for him to get anywhere near antelope, because they're going to be able to use that moonlight in order to see him. So it's going to be tough for him, but where he's positioned himself is good. And I see he's got his head kind of perked up a little bit. I'm just listening because I can hear the rustling of leaves all around him. We're just going to keep our voices down a little bit, because when a cat is hunting, even our voices could potentially make the difference for him. So if we just keep our voices low, hopefully these impalas will start getting a little bit closer and he'll be quite successful in his hunt. Now, earlier on, we were watching Pat as he followed those two cheetah, and they were on the hunt. And well, the hunt continued, but there was a twist in the tale.
Well, we can see that they are running, but what I can't see is what they are actually running at. There is a whole number of prey that they could choose from down there. Okay, so they're going in now. So we have a charge. I'm not sure exactly at what right now. This is so quick. That cheetah really getting some speed now, catching up close now. I think it's going to get it, it's got it. Whoa, that... Okay, so it's trying to get the Anchor, the brothers here now. They're both into it. So it looks like the face, it's going for the face. This is incredible. Look at that, it has muscled that thing. And then, okay, so now the brother's in. All right, I'm just gonna move forward so we can get closer to this action. Okay, so looks like the wildebeest might have gotten away. Oh, hyena's in too. Everyone's moving in right now. What? This is unreal stuff right now. So we've got hyenas on the chase. We've got the cheetah giving up. I can't even... This is incredible stuff right here. So I think that is the wildebeest that did get attacked. And the hyena now on the tail of the calf. I mean, wow, this is... Whoa! Incredible stuff. So the hyenas have isolated this calf from the parent. It is definitely beating them with speed, but we do know that hyenas are fit and can run for a very long time, and that is one of the ways that they will effectively hunt their prey, is to just keep running, keep running, and keep running. The cheetah is still right in front of us, very close to this herd of wildebeest. Okay, I might just see what they do, see if they decide to strike.
You are back live with us here in Djuma, in the Sabi Sands, where we have managed to find one of the sort of budding fathers of the next generation of impala lambs. He's sitting there on his own, a little bit isolated, because at the end of the rutting season, his males have just been fighting, and his neck, you could see, was incredibly thick from all of the fighting that he did. But how incredible is it to watch cheetah chasing wildebeest in a coalition like that? They're able to take larger prey than they normally would, but always the opportunistic hyenas come in from the background to always steal from cheetah. It happens more often than you would think. Down here in Djuma, many times we have the hyena trying to steal food from our leopard dynasty, and these impala males, the boys, have been the ones who've been hit the hardest during the last couple of months of the rutting season, that they have been so transfixed on the females. So the question there was, do these male impala chew the cud and regurgitate just like cows do? And they most certainly do. They're called ruminants, and it's called ruminating. You can see now it's busy chewing, and in a moment or two it is going to swallow. So they've got 4-chambered stomach. Many animals do. And by chewing, they're breaking up the particles into much smaller pieces, which will then happen a lot better microbial breakdown in the stomach. There we go. He just swallowed. Watch, he's going to throw it up again. There we go. Back in his mouth. Now, ruminants do certainly struggle out here in these times of year when we go through dry periods. And, well, we are looking to be heading into another drought like we did 2 years ago. And it can be often very detrimental to the ruminating animals.
The summer of 2015 and 2016 was the hottest and driest in 110 years. All life depends on water. So in the semi-arid Western Kruger, a failure of the rains is devastating. Less than 1/3 of the average rain fell. Conflict over nature's most precious resource was intense. As woodland forage wilted, animals struggled to find sustenance. The African sun baked the land. The grass remained dormant, the herbivores began to starve, and so eventually did their predators. The scavengers took full advantage. The air remained choked with dust as the herds continued their ceaseless search for water and nourishment.
And sadly, drought affects all the animals out here, and it's a very rough ride for them all. It upsets the balance of the ecosystem, but luckily carnivores like your hyenas, your leopards and your lions, they do get a lot of their hydration and nutritional requirements from the blood in the animals that they do eat, because of course they're meat eaters. Now, there's been a lot going on here. We have 2 adults around, June and Ribbon. Now, hyenas operate on a strict matriarchal society, which is very nepotistic. And what that means is you get your position in this proverbial ladder, if you like, in the hierarchy from who your mother is. If your mother is a high-ranking individual, you will have high-ranking status as a cub. If your mother is low-ranking, then you will be low-ranking. And that's what we mean by nepotistic. Now, matriarchal means that there's a matriarch that leads the clan. There's a leader, a boss right at the top. And of the Juma clan, that is Corky, who I have not seen around in quite some time. We have Ribbon here, who is the lowest ranking individual, right here in front of us at the very bottom of the ladder with her little cub, who will also be very low ranking. So there's a lot going on here. We're going to keep looking around and listening, and while we do that, we're going to send you back across to Tristan.
No, it's going. As you can see, there's no audio. So can you hear the impalas? They're shouting. One of them spotted him and he went bursting through the bush at them, and they're now shouting, but they have no idea where he is. I'm just going to keep quiet so you can hear it. No, yeah, it's gone quiet. So now they don't know where he is. They're all around him. Can you see the eyes in the distance? You see they're all facing in different directions. They have no idea where he is because he just ran in and they all bombshelled. It's why he's still vested in this hunt. And it's very possible that he can get this right if he just keeps his cool and tries to get himself into a good position and sits quietly and doesn't move too much. It's very possible. Right, we're going to send you off for a short break. Don't go anywhere. The hunt is still very much on.
So, well, the hyenas have just walked off at the minute, so I'm just having a little bit of a scan around because, okay, there's the cubbies. If the adults have wandered off, you know we have a policy here that we can't be at the den without the adults. Now, they weren't too far away. Oh, I can see, yep. I can see eyes. Okay, the adults are still there, but I need to keep a really close look around because if they do disappear, we will have to leave. And of course, I don't want to leave. This is the most time I have spent with my little Inas in so long. Okay, we've got the third cub approaching. I can see the adults just off in the distance there. Oh no, you're not a cub. My apologies. You are Ribbon, I think. Let's just take a closer look at that spot pattern. No, you are... yes, you are Ribbon. Like very small in size as the lowest ranking individual. So thank goodness we've got an adult back. A little greeting ceremony going on here in the wonderful true way that hyenas do it, sniffing and licking each other's genitals, but it's a really, really important part of hyena's social structure. Isn't that cute? Oh, very gentle. Yep, it's ribbon. I just wanted to check that spot pattern, but I can confirm it is rib robs. Welcome back live. We are still sitting here with members of the Juma clan. The adult you can see who's at the entrance to the den having a sniff and maybe trying to look for her cub is Ribbon, the one I mentioned who is the lowest ranking individual of the whole clan. She's right at the bottom of that ladder in the hierarchy, and 2 cubs. Now Ribbon has 1 cub and June, the adult that was around a little bit earlier, has 2 cubs. Where are you going, Ribbon? She's just wandering off to the side here. I'm just going to have a little look to see where she's going. Ribbon. So that means we are here with the 2 cubs at the minute. Now, if the adults do disappear, I will have to leave. So while I try and figure out where the adults have gone, we're going to show you exactly who Ribbon is and a little bit more about her.
Ribbon is a low-ranking member of the Juma clan, easily distinguished by the large chunk missing from her left ear. She is the 4th clan mother to give birth this year. Her litter was born in March. Not for these the silver-spooned cubhood of the matriarch's little one. Taking their cue from their mother, they must stay clear of high-ranking females and accept bullying. Ribbon is even submissive to the cubs of high-ranking mums. The constant harassment means that the maligned trio move den frequently. Here, a hungry cub belonging to someone else tries to suckle from Ribbon. The cub raises its tail in dominance, and Ribbon silently extracts to avoid causing a scene. Ribbon's lot of hardship will unfortunately be passed on to her cubs. They may fight their way to a higher rank, but most likely they will live as low rankers without ever tasting the high life.
So Ribbon is just over here. We're just going to reposition to get a better little look at her because the cubs have in fact gone back inside of the den. She's obviously just taking a little nap here. Hi, Ribbon. There we go. Let's see if we can get a little look at her from here. Now, the life of Ribbon, as you can see, is not an easy one. The low-ranking individuals in a hyena structured hierarchical clan means they're normally the ones that do not get very first access to the food. They get kicked out at carcasses. They normally get left with the scraps and the leftovers unless they're able to go and sneak in a snack of their own, hunt for themselves, and then of course they will get some food. But when it comes to sharing at a carcass, they are the last ones. Now, when you spend time at a den, you can see how the other hyenas treat the low-ranking individuals. It's not nice. There's a lot of bullying going on there, a lot of dominance, and Ribbon here will constantly have to act submissive throughout her whole life. So it's not easy being Ribbon. So we're going to stay with our girl for a little bit longer, and we're going to send you guys across to Tristan.
Well, as you can see, unfortunately, our leopard missed those impalas. He ran as we kind of went into the ad break. He ran into the middle of them and they scattered, and he missed completely. And unfortunately, didn't get himself a meal. So he's now just stopped and he's just scanning around and listening and looking in the hope that he can maybe spot a potential other target that he might be able to go and hunt. But obviously with the full moon, like I was saying earlier, it's not going to be easy. It's actually amazing how much light a full moon has in the sort of darkness. It illuminates everything and it makes it really tricky for these guys to hunt. The one good thing, though, that he has as his advantage is that it's incredibly dry at the moment. And so dry conditions means that these animals have got to go towards water. We saw in that footage of 2016 when it was so dry, and I was in the reserve during that period, it was incredibly difficult for animals to survive. And so the predators do very, very well in that time because they can sort of hang around close to water sources and they get all kinds of animals that come their way. Now, Gerald, why do leopards hunt on their own, or why are they on their own like that? Well, it's just the niche that they've occupied. Unfortunately, you'll have a situation where animals like lions, they form prides, and that will allow them to tackle certain sized animals. But you can't have lions or prides of animals the same as lions, because otherwise there's going to be far too much competition. So you need these individuals that are on their own that can tackle different sized animals, and that will be able to go after various sized prey. Now, what has he spotted? I think he's spotted something. You see, look how he's slinking. There's definitely something that he's seen. I have no idea what it is. Oh, it's a hyena. So there's a hyena that's coming around. It's coming straight towards us in front of the car. So it's going to come this side there. And that's been attracted by all the sound. Now, it might chase this leopard. Let's just see. Is the leopard still sitting there, Craig? I can't see where he went. Yes, there's his tail. So there's the leopard behind the bush and the hyena just there. Now the hyena's come in, it's heard all the shouting, so it thinks maybe there's a carcass here, and it's run right past the leopard. And you see how the leopard just sat dead still behind the bush and waited for the hyena to go past. But what will happen now is that hyena's going to run to where it thought the sound was coming from, and it's going to be, you can see his head has just popped up now, and it's going to eventually pick up the scent of that leopard, and it will actually follow the scent all the way round to where this leopard is, to check if there isn't any carcass that it can steal. And it's why it's very difficult for our leopards in this area. High concentration of hyenas, and that makes life incredibly hard for them because they constantly get robbed, and it's why they get their kills up into trees often as quickly as possible, particularly at night. You'll find during the day they're not as worried about it, but at night, as soon as they grab an impala or something like that, they'll try and head to the nearest tree and try and get it up as quick as possible. I wouldn't be surprised that hyena starts to make its way back into this area. But how in tune is this leopard? You see how he went down and was starting to sleep, and all of a sudden he was awake and he knew something was coming, and immediately the instinct of a leopard is to rely on its camouflage. So in behind a bush where he can camouflage much better. Now that the hyena's passed, back to his little dip where he can curl up in a nice little ball and stay warm because of how cold it is this evening. Ludmilla, which animal is the best survivor? Ooh, tricky one. I think every animal, in order to be alive in an area like this that is rich in different predators, and that goes from anything from insects all the way up to things like elephants. Best father. Sorry, I thought you said survivor. Sorry. Best father? Ooh, probably, I would say a jacana. Now, for those of you who don't know what a jacana is, it's a bird. They are little birds that will actually take their babies and put them in under their wings, and they'll carry their little babies around, make sure that they're warm, particularly because they're near water, and often it's very, very cold there. So they'll actually make sure that those little ones, and they carry them around, and they actually do a lot more of the mothering role than what you would get from a mother jacana itself. So I'd say little jacanas would be, for me, the fathers that I would say are the best in this particular wilderness area. Anyway, we're going to sit and we're going to pay attention and hope that this leopard decides to start getting up and moving. Maybe that hyena will come back. And talking of hyenas, well, Lauren is still sitting at the den, and I wonder what those little ones are up to now.
Our ribbon has not moved much at all, but she's constantly listening. Look at that. I wonder who that hyena was that went past Hosanna. We might not know exactly who it was, but they will. Hyenas can actually recognize each individual in their clan by their vocalizations. They have about 14 different vocalizations, including the famous whooping. Whoop, I definitely didn't sound like a hyena there, didn't do it any justice, but it's very iconic of the hyenas out here, and they can recognise each and every individual just by sound. Now the Djuma clan is quite small, but the North clan in the Masai Mara holds about 77 individuals. Now Ribbon here has heard something has caught her attention, so we're going to take a short break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back and see exactly what she gets up to. I wonder what caught her attention. I'm actually just going to scan around with the spotlight, which is the proper thing to do, just in case there is anything lurking about. But if anything was lurking about, she would definitely know about it. Hyenas are so hypersensitive. Great hearing, great sense of smell, and great eyesight. Have you spotted something there, Sense? No, we're just having a quick scan. Ribbon's out here all alone. Cubs are safely tucked back into the den. Faith, can you just repeat that, please? Now, we did hear some whooping around here earlier, lots of whooping, but I don't know where they've gone. And you know, the hyenas are probably too busy trying to find out where all the leopards are. That's exactly what they'll be up to. And obviously, Hosanna just encountered one himself. They are not the best of friends, shall we say. I think enemy is a good word to use. They're very aware of who one another are. Hosanna's aware exactly who the hyenas are and what they are, and the hyenas are aware of exactly who Hosanna is. There is no way on a reserve this size that they do not know who one another are. I personally find leopard and hyena interactions one of the most interesting and funny out here. We've witnessed Hosanna and Corky many times, and there's really not that much aggression between the two of them. They are familiar who one another are, and the levels of aggression are really, really low. Sometimes Hosanna's scared of Corky, and he obviously runs away, and then sometimes it's the other way around. But Corky is a large female. What did you hear, Ribs? We're going to have a little groom. Welcome back live. We are still sitting here with Ribbon, who's doing some self-grooming at the moment, but she is constantly listening around. There's something that is picking up her attention. I, of course, with my meager human ears, have no idea what it is, but she obviously does. They have fantastic hearing as well as a fantastic sense of smell. Great senses all around. Hyenas really are great apex predators. Oh, she's on the move, she's on the move. Where are you going, Ribbon? I think it's time we may have to follow her and find out exactly where she's up to. And believe it or not, when you follow a hyena, it can often lead you to other wonderful sightings. So while we chase Ribbon, don't forget to send in your questions or your comments or anything you would like to know about what we are seeing in front of us. And I'm just going to put my lights on for safety. She is not going to be easy to follow here. So talking of hyenas being apex predators, there's of course many of them out there. They're natural enemies, including lions, leopards, and of course cheetahs. So let's go and take a look at how those Lamai brothers got on with their hunt up in the Mara.
charging. Wow. Okay, so the wildebeest now going back at the cheetah. A bit of fight back here. Wow, this just keeps... As this is unfolding, I'm in so much... I'm lost for words right now, everybody. This is such a cool sighting. It's had a little bit of everything. Well, now without the element of surprise, these cheetah, wow, look like they may have given up. Do know that cheetah do use a lot of energy, and it's a very, very hard process to chase at such a high speed. I mean, we saw just how quickly that thing came at that wildebeest. It caught up. That was just pure adrenaline right there. But just the speed that it made up, I mean, that's got to take its toll on the bodies of these cats. The wildebeest got away. I thought it was all over Red Rover then, though. That cheetah on the face, it looked like it had the control, but just as we were moving over, things went differently.
It's amazing to hear the noise that those wildebeest can make, much like what we heard from those impalas when they saw Hosanna. It's obviously both animals are signaling to others that there's a potential predator, and that's why those alarm calls are made. Now, our cat is busy sleeping at the moment, but the hyena that we were talking about earlier just arrived back and walked right up to him, and there was a little snarl. They looked at each other, and the hyena has now departed and gone off and realized there's no food here for it, and so there's no point in fighting with the leopard. It can ultimately end up in injury between both of them, and so they'll actually just stay clear of each other. It's only if there's food will you see a hyena and a leopard really go at each other, and generally the leopard gives up and allows the hyena in to feed, and then the leopard will kind of try and see if it can pick up some scraps afterwards because of how strong hyenas are and the threat that they pose to an individual that is a solitary animal. At the end of the day, you must remember that if a leopard gets injured, there's nobody else to help it. It's not like lions that there's a pride system that potentially it can help feed that animal. These guys are relying solely on themselves to be able to feed, and so fighting with hyenas are really a pointless exercise, and so they'd rather just give up and move. But when there's no food, they'll just hiss at them, and generally that's enough for the hyena to realize there's nothing here and will move off. But it's amazing to watch that interaction between the two of them. Right, now you can see he's just looking now. Let's just give it 2 seconds, because I thought I heard that hyena coming back. I just want to quickly use my spotlight just to see, because we're in complete darkness and I can't see. The way he's looking, he's got his head back down, so I can't see anything with my spotlight at all. Now, earlier we were touching on the effects of the drought in this area, and well, I was saying that I was here in 2016 when the drought was so bad, and I can tell you it was an incredibly difficult time to be here. Watching animals suffer is one of the hardest things I've ever done as a guide, and certainly not very easy. And as the drought takes effect, so you'll find that the youngest of the animals really get hit hardest.
Many cubs were born to the Nkuhuma pride during the angry drought of 2016. The adorable little things were oblivious as their mothers led them between the drying water holes. Without a spring flush, the herbivores soon began to lose condition. Muscle atrophied and bones stuck out. The lions took full advantage, picking off suffering stragglers. But the drought brought more than just thirst. The parched mammals, their immune systems compromised, became susceptible to mange. The dreadful skin disease caused by a mite induces severe itching and hair loss. It can be fatal in weaker animals. It appeared on the most vulnerable, including the little Nkuhumas. Beginning on elbows and ears and then spreading, causing huge discomfort. Without rain and nutritious food, the cubs stood little chance against the scourge.
Well, the tranquility of this scene is a far cry from what we were seeing in those images. Like I was saying, 2016 was incredibly difficult to watch. Those poor cubs going through mange, and it wasn't just them. There was impalas and kudu, various antelope that were showing signs of it, and it really just got incredibly difficult for those animals to survive. And the problem with mange is, as it manifests and it gets worse and worse and worse, it thrives in dry conditions. And the more they scratch, and the more, and particularly in social animals like impalas and lions that spend a lot of time together and groom each other, you'll often see the transference of that mange, and it spreads like wildfire through them. And in young animals like those little cubs that you saw there, it is almost deadly. And the rains really didn't arrive in time for some of those little cubs, unfortunately, and they unfortunately had a very, very tough time of it. It was a hard thing to watch, but ultimately I suppose it is part of nature, and these drought conditions are helping in terms of limiting certain animals during certain times. As soon as we get really good rains, you'll see this sort of spike of those animals, particularly things like impalas and kudu. In the rainy seasons they do very, very well. So, as much as it's hard to watch, it is a natural occurring phenomenon. Right, now Hosanna is still fast asleep. He's not worried at all about mange at this stage because, well, he's well fed and it's not really that dry just yet. And so we're going to sit with him and watch what he gets up to. And in the meantime, I'll send you back across to Steve as he wields his spotlight in the darkness of night.
Thanks, Tristan. Indeed, you mentioned how bright the moon was this evening, and nights like this make it very difficult for our predators to hunt because the nocturnal vision of most of the herbivore animals make it easier for them to see the stealthy movements of a leopard or lion. And indeed, mange is a very horrible thing that does increase in occurrence during drought conditions. And how beautiful is that shot of the moon? You just got a little bit of glimpse of Jupiter just next to it there. And very difficult indeed for animals to hunt on nights like this. And so far, very difficult for us to find any cats. We had a bit of luck earlier today. Tracked the Queen Tundi, who disappeared on us. Don't know where she's gotten to. We're going to keep trying. The spotlight is out. This is the time of night when cats will move, but due to the fact that the moon is full, they often don't hunt very well, so they will move around and scent mark and demarcate territories so as not to waste any of their time. So we're going to keep heading down the road over here. It would be nice to see Tundi. Tingana, unfortunately, the dad of Juma, seems to be in the north, and we might not be seeing him tonight, but who knows? You never know what could happen. But anything can happen around the corner. Absolutely anything could pop out. I hope you don't go anywhere because we will hopefully see you right after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Right, well, sleepy Hosanna. I'm not surprised he's sleepy. He's dragged us around all over the place during the course of the last 2 hours, and there was lots of energy expended when he was going after those impalas earlier. It was interesting to watch his tactics and how he would confuse them and then just pile into the middle of the herd and just hope for panic and to grab one. The leopard that I used to see hunt like that a lot was Mvula. He used to do the exact same thing as what I saw from Hosanna tonight. Create absolute panic and chaos to the point where they wouldn't know where he was, and then he would just fly in there and try and kind of grab one that was unsuspecting. And so it's obviously a technique he's used before, And he was not far from actually coming right. He almost grabbed the impala in the first sort of attempt, and then in that second attempt he got very, very close once again, which is interesting. So clearly is a technique that he does use, but for now it's all about sleeping, and he's curled himself up into this tight little ball, and I can tell you it's gotten quite cool now, so I'm not surprised. But what I want to do is Craig's got this horrible little piece of grass that's in front of his face, so I'm just going to move myself slightly so that Craig doesn't have to worry about that before we go back into our TV segment. Craigie, is that better? So there we go. I think that's a bit better for Craig now. So we don't have that grass right in his face. It's much cleaner on his looks, that's for sure. Now I'm going to stop speaking now because we are going back into our TV show. So you're going to enjoy again the ambience of the night. As you can see, our male leopard is still having a good sleep under the full moon in the middle of the South African wilderness. You can see every now and then his eye is popping open, but it's really settled down from the chaos that was his hunting a little bit earlier to this calm scene that we see now. You can see he's really tucked himself up. It's a cold evening tonight here in the bush. It's very, very chilly. And so that's why he's tucked up in this tight little ball in order to try and make himself as warm as possible. And I always laugh with this cat because you'll see how he gets his tail under his paws even, and he kind of stands on his tail just to make sure that the tail doesn't behave badly and run away from him and just stays nice and warm. And he did it earlier today as well, and it's one of the features. You often see his paw over the top of his tail. It's very, very, very cool to see. I thoroughly enjoy this cat. And, often people ask us about this cat in particular, Hosanna, and why we enjoy him so much. And the reason is that he's so active and constantly gives us these amazing sightings that he's a joy to have around. And his return last week was something very, very special for all of us, and hopefully he is going to stick around in this area. It's going to be difficult because, well, it's getting very dry now again, and so that means that there's not going to be too much water around, and that might dictate where he moves, given that he's not a territorial male just yet. And we looked a little bit earlier at some of the, at mange in particular, that strikes some of the animals that are out here. And unfortunately for the lions of this area, that was not the end of it when it came to the hardships of the drought.
The drought brought something even more sinister than mange. The lions were killing buffalo every few days, but ironically the starving bovids caused the lions more harm than good. The carcasses were completely devoid of vitamin E and selenium. The lack of these two crucial nutrients caused a dreadful problem: white muscle disease. A horrible, wasting sickness that ravaged the vulnerable cubs in the Nkuhuma pride. It began in the middle of the spine, spreading to the muscles of the hind legs, eventually causing a hugely distressing paralysis and consigning the victim to death from starvation or scavenger. This lioness was forced to leave two of her cubs to die. But like all things in nature, drought and disease come in cycles. Eventually the rains returned, and slowly the Nkuhumas regained their strength.
And you're back live with us, everybody. How sad are those scenes with those cubs? Very sad indeed. The drought does take its toll on the weak, and the strong survive and their genes go forward. Well, there's only one way to pass on genes out in the wilderness, and in lions it's obviously the males who send their genetics through with the females. And well, Tristan said Africa Jacanas were the best fathers. Well, lions most certainly are not.
Most cats, as your tabby will tell you, are solitary. The African lion is an exception. A pride consists of lionesses and their cubs. Their obvious affection is both amusing and heartwarming. Unlike the Lion King would have you believe, male lions are not part of the pride. They live in coalitions. Males are not intimately involved in the raising of their cubs. Their role is to protect them, often indirectly. Young males leave home at adolescence. Brothers and cousins roam the wild like unruly teenagers. At around 5 years old, these marauding males will invade a territory, looking for a pride of their own. This is where things become nasty. The new coalition will kill all cubs under a year old. It's appalling to watch, but serves a purpose for the new dominance. The bereft mothers will come into estrus, and the new bosses will then further their own genetic legacy. But once territory is secure, lions can relax with their prides. They prefer not to be bothered by cubs, and are not known for their affection to the babies. But once in a while, males overcome their belligerent grumpiness. There is little more delightful than watching tolerant, caring, and accepting lion fathers.
It's a joy to watch when cubs spend time with their fathers, particularly in lions, and watch the kind of irritation that you see between dad and the cubs, but yet there's still this affection and gentleness with a big male lion that could potentially do some serious damage to them. Really very, very fortunate that they end up being kind of as relaxed as they are. And I wonder if Hosana is going to be relaxed around his cubs. He's kind of rewritten the book in many respects when it comes to Leopard, and could mean that he is also far more kind of, I don't know what the word is, maybe relaxed around the cubs that he potentially has. Right, unfortunately is that time though where we need to say goodbye to all of you this evening. I hope that you've enjoyed the spectacle that was once again the beauty of South Africa and Kenya's Masai Mara. It's amazing that we got to spend time with the leopard and hyenas and cheetahs on the hunt, and I hope that everybody has a wonderful Father's Day. But we'll see you all the same place, same time next week. Until then, bye for now.